Welcome to Abracadabra, everyone. I haven't had a guest on the podcast in a while because I've been concentrating on writing, shaping up my literary venture, HSD Ascent Services, but I just couldn't pass out the opportunity to speak with Charles. So here we are. Charles, welcome to Abracadabra once again.
All right, thanks. It's great to be back, and I appreciate that I am the first guest in a long time. I feel honored. So thank you very much.
No, I enjoyed my conversation with you the other day. So, Charles is a freelance journalist, he's a podcast host, and he's also an author. In fact, I was recently on his show, The Opinion Guy, not too long ago, and we had a fantastic conversation. So, just wanted to have another conversation. Um, so, Charles, firstly, tell the listeners and the viewers, because this podcast is available in both audio and video formats, right? About your exciting life as a journalist.
Well, I became a journalist in 2000, was it 2021? And it really, I just reply. I started replying to anybody or any media outlet I saw on social media. Hey, do you need someone? And there's a one of a few papers in the Daytona Beach area is called Hometown News, Volusia. Volusia County being the county in the U.S. that Hometown News covers, and my main beat is Daytona Beach. But I just actually twice I tweeted at them, "Do you need somebody?" And they said, "Send us some writing samples." And I had written in the past for my job when I lived on Long Island, and they said, "Come on down," and that's how I got the job through Twitter.
Wow, nice. But let's just circle back, let's go back in time. Assuming this is a time machine, how did journalism begin? I mean, to begin with, was it something that you aspired, or did it happen accidentally, between job hopping?
I was forced into writing.
Wow.
It was it was publish or perish. So I was a professor at Long Island University, which is actually the main the larger the first campus, the original campus is in Brooklyn, and that's where I actually worked. And as a professor, library professor, you have to publish or perish, right? If you want tenure, you have to write, and that's called
Right. Yeah.
academic, peer-reviewed journals and scholarly. So I said, all right, well, how do I do that? I said, well, I wrote all the time in college. I'm just going to write the same way. And so I wrote about budgets in libraries, and it did very well. I got an award as one of the best articles in the journal for that year, and I just continued writing. Had this idea for a book, went on sabbatical, kicked in the book, and then took an opt out at that job. Came down to Florida full time because I was in a relationship, and then got the job at Hometown News, and that kind of grew to Florida Weekly and another newspaper. And I just freelance, and I'll go anywhere and write about anything for anyone. That's basically like my tagline.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I remember talking about that book. It was about budgeting, right?
Yes.
Back in 2022, I believe, when we met on Author to Author. So, how did it work? Did your writing sort of impact your journalism, or did, going into journalism impacted your writing? How did it work?
Both. I'm a much the writing impacted my journalism because I was writing at an academic level. So the editor at that time said, for a newspaper in the U.S., newspapers are generally written at a seventh to ninth grade level, and so I was writing, at a college level. So he said, you're gonna probably have to tone it down a little bit in the verbiage that you use. So I did that actually in the beginning, and then I just went back to what I always did. So the writing in academia definitely affected in a positive way the writing in journalism because I went back to using the same kind of verbiage as time went on. It was just kind of my style. And now I have been working on a second book for quite a few years.
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
And that my writing for that has become so much better because instead of academic journals, for folks who don't know, can take a year to a year and a half before from the time you start writing until it's published. So you're only focusing on that one article, that one piece. I'm pumping out two or three a week for the newspaper or newspapers that I work for, and you just hone your skills, and you just get better. And So 2 summers ago, I got the book back, my second book back from the editor, and I looked at it and I'm just like, I can do better. And and so I'm rewriting the whole thing. But now that I'm, a journalist and show host, it is kind of harder to find the time for the book.
Hmm.
It's honestly about 30 minutes a week because, but if you don't mind, I'll just say because there's no deadline on it. I don't owe it to anyone. Like I hired the editor, so it's not like a publisher, where's the book? Otherwise, I would
Right.
have done it. But so the newspaper obviously deadlines. Whoever I'm writing for deadlines. I blog. That's a deadline thing too. I blogged about the Daytona Beach mayor the other day. I got to get that out as soon as I can. Otherwise, it's just as timely as a newspaper article.
Right.
And the show, of course, booking guests, as booking guests and doing the show itself, prepping for the show take time. So all those things have a public face to it. The book really doesn't, right? So until it comes out, and then of course it would be vastly different. But so it's not the least, it's not last, but it's definitely the thing that I do least often.
Right. And something very important that you just said, it's a skill that you can hone. Uh, I've had many authors who've just published one book and that's what they do for their entire life.
Right.
And they come asking me, how do I improve my writing? I'm struggling with this. I said, write more, read more,
Right.
write more, read more, write more. That's how you improve your skills. It's like sharpening an axe. If you don't sharpen it, if you keep using the axe, sooner or later it's going to lose its sharpness and you won't hit the targets. It won't work as it used to be when it was new, right? So you sharpen the skill. Same with writing. You need to keep writing. If I look at my first book vis-a-vis, if I look at my 14th book, Poles Apart, the writing style has changed. It has evolved. I have grown as a writer. Earlier, I was just a husband. Now I'm a dad as well. So that has impacted everything that happens in the life. With each stage, it impacts your life, good, bad, happiness, sadness, trauma. That impacts your writing. Uh, and trauma for that matter impacts all the art, be it artists, painters, or anybody. So yeah, it's a process. And second thing that you said rightly over here, journalism is deadline driven, right? It's deadline. I mean, if you are writing something and you have to get it out, you have to get it out. You don't have the leeway of the time that you have in writing a book. And especially if you're an indie writer, you have all the time in the world. You have no deadlines from the publishers or editors. I mean, you do it at your pace. So how does that, sort of impact the quality? Do you think it is directly proportional to quality, the deadline and vis-a-vis
Right.
having no deadline?
Absolutely. Yes. I'll answer that first. I want to get back to some other things you said that were great. Yes. Yeah. The deadline definitely does. There's also, for one of the papers I write for all time, for Hometown News, Volusia, there's also a word count. So I was writing like, not in the beginning though, right? So that came about 2 years ago. So in the first 2 years that I was there, I'd submit like 1,200 word articles. Now we're down to 800. And I'm like, oh man, what do I cut out? And how do I say this in short? So yeah, that
Right.
impacts your style and I would say to a certain degree that well the information that you can provide and how you provide it. But yes, you write the facts based on a deadline. So like you got to get that in. So there's only so many times you can research something, so much you can research something. There's only so much you can go back and look at something for the third or fourth time, which to make sure you got it right because you got to get that in. So there is a little bit of a trust. Like I know I'm smart. I know I got it right. I just got to do this and do it based on your first or second intuition on something. Sometimes, yeah, definitely, it definitely does because you'd like to have endless time. You'd like to have that year and a half so you can go out to
Right.
more places, or that marketing research firm that didn't get back to you, and you're like, oh, that would have been so great if they just would have got back to me in time to add that piece to my story, to my article. But so yes, having that deadline definitely you write the facts as you know them against the deadline, and they could change almost right away. We actually had a story once where a really good contact of mine was managing this club, a blues club, and the blues club was moving, right? And it was pretty big news. It was headline news. The day the newspaper came out, I got a call, and I talked to the owner, and the owner's like, definitely happening. The day that the headline came out, a front page came out that they were moving to a new town. I get a call from my contact. He goes, the whole deal fell through.
Oh.
So we have this headline in the newspaper about this it was getting a very good reputation, moving to another part of the county. The whole thing was, I won't say the word, but my my uh my editor replied back, "That's an aw f moment." I said, I replied back, I said, "It's exactly what I thought when I heard that it fell through. Fell through last minute." So the facts when I submitted the story against the deadline where this relatively famous club was moving, then the whole deal fell through and we looked, we were holding the bag. But the pleasure of that, the positive of that now is you could just go online and explain it away to a certain
Right.
degree with the traditional imprint correction the next week. You know what I mean? But it was tough, man. I was like, oh, that really stinks.
You know what? I'm going to show this video to aspiring authors who seek help from me, because here comes the third point, which you
Yeah,
can take from journalism. You have to be smart. Because
yeah,
prioritization is the key. This is what I'm getting, right? You cannot have everything in a 800 or 1200 word article because you're limited to words. You're
yeah,
limited to the deadline and you've got to deliver those 800, 1200 words because the newspaper or wherever this article is going has got a limited space and you've got to fit your story right
yeah,
there. Yeah?
yeah,
And
yeah,
the writers come up to me and say, I've got 50,000 words, but I don't know how to end it. I've got 60,000 words. There are fantasy writers who are sitting on 100,000 words and they've no idea how to end it. And a simple word for me, for them, is just prioritize what you want in the book. This gives you a chance to have maybe a sequel or a prequel. If you think something can be left out of the story, prioritize it. We've all got to go. They say that art is not scientific, it's highly scientific. You
mhm,
can use the principle of SMART goals, which is specific. You've got to
mhm,
be measurable. You've got to be achievable target. You've got to set achievable targets. They've got to be realistic and they've got to be time bound. So that becomes SMART, SMART goals. And that's what I tell every author. Set up goals for yourself daily, weekly, monthly on how much you want to write and at least achieve that. Over and above that, that's your achievement. That's your extra work, and that's going to pay you because you end up finishing your book sooner than what you've targeted. But the
right.
point is, if you can't measure it, how do you improve it? And we've got to have a measuring scale for everything, and writing is no different. And prioritization is one of the things that I tell my authors. You've got a theme, stick to the theme, and if you think something else is really useful, keep it aside. Maybe that comes handy for book two.
Hmm.
Why not?
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
you've got to draw a line. Somewhere you've got to draw a line. And with increasing or decreasing levels of attention, you need to have short books.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's becoming that's a big time issue. Should I have a 50,000 word book? Should I have a 80,000 word book, or should I have 100,000 books? I mean, if you can keep the attention of the reader, why not have 100,000 words book? And fantasy novels are typically long. But then if you're targeting action, adventure, or any other story, then keep it short and simple because the
Mhm.
attention span is not going to be there. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's true about I think that I mean I don't know as a freelancer I don't know all why all the decisions are made at Hometown News, but to go from 1200 to 800, obviously there could be advertising space.
Right.
But also attention spans. Online, online people just naturally assume it's going to be shorter,
Yeah.
and in print the old editor would say, okay, in print we can do the 12. He actually 'cause I had a story about a woman who was dealing with a very rare illness, so he said, you know what? We're going to go 1200 on the online on the print version of this because it really was a fascinating is a fascinating story. But he cut it down for the online because you just expect that. I expect that when I read online stuff in a newspaper that it's going to be short. So
And that is the difficult part. You've written something
yeah,
1200 words and then finally you've got to cut it down to 800. That
yeah,
becomes a pinch. Oh, should
I
I
know.
leave this out? Should I not leave this out? What do I
Yeah,
do? Because every time I look at the second, if I read my book again, I want to add more, let alone just cutting it short. But that's the fun part about writing, I think. And something that really works for me is working on deadlines. That is what keeps me going, and I think that is what keeps you going, right?
yes,
I
it's a motivator for sure.
mean, it's the excitement, it's the adrenaline. Oh, you know what deadline is coming up, I need to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, if for aspiring journalists out there, um, one of the things that I worked out with the newspaper was, if we're cutting back, if we're cutting back from 1200 to 800, um, I have stories that I'd like to add, formerly would, and I just said, hey, can I use that as a blog? And they said, yeah, sure, because I have extra stories now that aren't making the paper, so I can blog on those. So I worked
Right.
that out where they're like, fine, we don't mind, because I was going there basically being paid by them, but then use it for my blog. So I wanted, their consent. So you can do that. Like you don't have to totally dismiss part of a great. So like I went down to the Daytona Beach City Commission meeting, their government, and there were two great stories. Only one makes the paper, the other one could be in my blog. So there's another
Right.
way you can use that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, prioritize again here. But let
Yeah.
me let me ask you something. And this is something very interesting, and I've asked authors about it, and it's a pain point. So editor is a very important team member in your journey, right? Be it journalist or be it an author. So how do you take the feedback from the editor? Do you take it with a pinch of salt, or are you a sport and you take it, oh yeah, he's the boss, he's editing the story, I will accept the changes. So which one are you?
Okay. Right. Hold on one second. So I guess gotta grab this. So this book right here was my first is my one book that's out, Proposition 13, America's Second Great Tax Revolt.
Right.
There were 700 different points of conversation between me and the editor for this book. Always professional, right? There was like no I was gonna say animosity, but there was no like arguing or anything like that. 600 of them, by the way, I was correct. So at the end of it all, I said to the editor, I said, how come you went my way on like 600 of these 700? And she said, because your name is on the book, right? It's your
Right.
book in the and so I really, really feel that way. And recently I had a conversation with one of the newspapers I write for because um, they changed a lot of the wording in one of my stories. And they said it was to get to AP style and they wanted to, get some more of the news that I had down on the page up. And I said, okay, I mean, I strive for AP style because I know that's what this particular place wants. If I make a mistake, like whatever, just change it. Like who cares, or AP style. I said, but my words are being changed and my name, like the book, that's the tie-in. Like my name's on that book, my name's on the byline. So there's only so far I'll go with that. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
seriously, I think if you care about your personal public facing, when people come up to you and say, good article, do you want it to be practically all rewritten by the editor, or do you really want it to be your words?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So tweaks here and there, and if you got an editor that's been around for a while and just knows the neighborhood and knows a fact or two that you don't know, like I've been here 5 years, I try to know as much history as I can. Somebody who's been here 25 years is going to know more than me. They throw in something I didn't know. That's totally cool. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um, Changing Mr. and Ms. to just like if you're going to refer to John Smith and I
Right.
write Mr. Smith and they just change it to Smith, fine, but are you changing words? Too many of them. I say more than 10%. I got a problem. And I did
Exactly.
leave. I did leave one magazine I was working for because they were doing things editorially I just didn't agree with. Beyond that, if you don't mind me adding, they were taking the story and handing it to the subject. And,
Yeah.
and this was just a restaurant. It wasn't like it was a politician. I think I would have started a revolution if they did that with a politician. But but it was a restaurant. And they said, "Hey, what did you think of this?" And then I got a last minute email. You have to change all this. They didn't like it. So I said to them, "Did they pay for that?" Because in America you can pay for an article. And it's called there's a name for it, like a business profile
Yeah.
type thing, advertorial. She said no, and I said, well, I didn't say anything to her, but I was like, that goes against my belief of the First Amendment. You don't hand off an article to somebody for their approval. If they pay
Exactly.
for it, then it's basically an advertisement. So I had an editorial conflict of a different type with that person, and I just stopped working for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, that you do run up against that sometimes. It really depends on what the changes are, in my opinion.
Exactly. And I think that's what I'm getting out of this. It's situational. It's completely situational. So
Yeah,
if anybody comes up and asks me how much changes should I expect from an editor, I think it's going to be situational as long as you're feeling that your voice is not lost. The editors are the bosses. They know how to format a book. They know how to sort of change a manuscript into a book. They know it. But as
yeah,
long as your voice is not lost, your message is not lost, if the message is completely coming out different than what you intended, then it becomes a problem. Then there is a conflict. And I think it's totally going to be situational. Uh, because they know their business, right? Editors know how to convert a manuscript into a book. So let them do their bit. They are the experts. But yeah, you have a say because your name is going to be on the book. You are going to be the author. I think that's
yes.
the right message that I'm coming. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And another situation where I kept writing for this one, the Florida Weekly. Do you know the performer Kenny G?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I interviewed him for Florida Weekly, and I went with G, Mr. G or whatever I use. So the editor got back to me and said we have to go to his full last name. Like, nobody knows him by his full last name, which I think is Gorlick. I'm going to say it's Gorlick. I might be a little bit off on that. It's
Yeah.
something very close to Gorlick. And I'm like, nobody knows Kenny Gorlick. You're going to go with Mr. And then my stepmom reads the article and she goes, "What's with the Gorlick?" I had nothing to do with that. I wanted G.
So let me ask you, how many people in America would know the actual name of Eminem? How many people would
Oh,
know
G.
that? Hardly anybody. If you literally go to a show and introduce with his real name, and people are going to wonder, huh? We paid for
Yeah,
Eminem. Who's coming on the stage? So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, Kenny G is Kenny G. You cannot do anything about that. That's his name.
But they were so cool, and that Florida Weeklies are really cool. The reason why I say the name of the publication is I have no problem with them. They're really cool, and I'm like, okay, that's what you guys. I kept writing for them, so that was not a problem. And then personally, I didn't feel like it was that big of a deal. It just kind of I wouldn't have done it, but it was fine otherwise. It was all my words otherwise.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've had many situations wherein authors have come to me and complained, you know what, the editor is making so many changes. And when I looked at the manuscript, I said, they are making the correct changes because they are making it politically correct for you. You're going to be
Yeah,
cancelled if you say it in a certain way, right? So, you want to
right,
reach a wider audience. The editor knows how to sort of format the book for that wider audience so that when you publish a book, you're not publishing it just for one demographic or two demographic. With Amazon and so many platforms which are going global, your book is going to be globally available, right? What you publish in US will also be read in India, will also be
yeah,
read in China, will also be read in the Gulf, Saudi, which is very conservative society. So
yeah,
what an editor is sort of doing it for you for your global publishing is making it sort of receptible to global readership, and you've
right,
got to let them do their job, but draw the line as long as the message of the book is not lost, long as your voice is not lost. Let them do the job because they know the stuff. I think
yeah.
that's what the good part about it.
Oh, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Right. We couldn't talk about the opinion guy when I came as a guest on your show. Tell me, how did it start? And I mean, how is it going? Because I see a diverse guest list over there. So I was an author, and then there was a musician who
Yeah.
came after me. So tell me about the opinion guy.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm doing the opinion guy, a lot like I've done my writing. I never, I do what well, my writing for myself personally, I do what I like, and so I like news and politics. I like authors to interview authors. I like baseball, and I like music. So those are and travel, and so those are the main topics of conversation, right? So it's kind of like an old school Larry King. If you listen to Larry King back in the day, he would have people from all different areas of life on the show, and so that's what I do. Um, so yeah, after you, I think I had the lead singer of the Verve Pipe was on, Brian Vander Ark,
Right.
uh, and I have a musician from a band called Stars. So yes, it's a lot of different. So I'm hitting a lot of different markets, and it's all things that I'm interested in. And the reason why I do that, there are other people out there that are interested in the same thing I am. Like I don't have to worry about that aspect. Like just do what you like, and that audience is going to find you. But what I have done since we spoke is I came up with playlists. So each one of those So now when you go, and that's the landing on my YouTube. So now when you go there, you can just say, you like sports, you can click on the sports one. So it'll make it easier for folks to figure it out. But I got the idea. I mean, it wasn't like an aha moment or anything. I just started thinking about it really about 3 years ago about starting the show. And I actually asked some people would you be interested in an endorsement, and people said yes. And I do have to run some demographics to get back to people on that. 'Cause I think I can get a sponsor pretty quickly. And so I just, as time went on, just waited to the right moment. And well, believe it or not, I had run into the lead guitar player in a band called Liliac, and he was having a career change. And I said, hey, we became Facebook friends. I saw him at a concert, and then we became Facebook friends. He goes, I want to come on your show. When's that show you told me about going to start? And I said, holy smokes, I better get this thing going because Liliac's an international band. And I'm like, I got the lead guitar player of this international band asking me twice when my show is going to start. So I said, I better start the show. And so I did. And
Yeah,
and he came, of course, and it was
that was
great.
your
But
first guest, right? He was your first guest.
no, no, actually, he was like my second or third. Yeah.
It's like, no, that.
Uh, So, but that really pushed me to get it done, almost like a deadline, right? In that sense, like I had this guy, man, like when are you going to start? Well, I had to get him on. I had to seize the moment.
Yeah,
So
but I
that's what,
like the open theme, getting diverse people, and then finally, when they go to the channel on YouTube, they can actually go into sports, they can go into literary or whatever other categories. That's
right.
that's really good. Love that.
Monday night, I have dedicated nights for people. A tip again, if for people who are going to start a show, I have dedicated nights. Like Monday is my news night, where I have a conservative on and a libertarian. For folks who don't know, the Libertarian Party is the third biggest party in America. You don't hear about it as much, but they're the third biggest. And I'm working on getting a Democrat to have that diverse opinion on that show. Tuesday night's always a baseball show, and then the rest of the week is could be any one of those other things we talked about.
Hmm.
So that makes it easy to schedule because it's 2 nights a week. You really don't have to schedule. I have regulars on both Monday and Tuesday night. And then the other 3 nights, I just have to find guests for. So that makes it a little bit easier. So that's a tip if you're looking for a show. Have
Yeah.
dedicated nights with panels of people helps a lot. So yeah, I love it. And the tagline, which I trademarked, the whole entire thing, the entire official name of the show is the opinion guy, fun, friendly, and informative. Because when I have the news people on, we're not at each other's throats. That's another throwback to the way things used to be in media in America. People weren't like, "You're dumb because you don't agree with me." It's all
Right.
like, "I respect your opinion, but here's what I think." You know what I mean? And that's the way we do the shows. No matter what show it is, any topic. That's the way we do it.
Yeah, I think the same in Canada. You can not agree with me, but at least have the respect to have that discussion, have that dialogue. I think that's the key. If you
Yes.
can talk, I think you can resolve it. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's what I believe, and that's the theme that I love. You have people from all the three parties, right? Leaders from all the three parties, and then you have
Yeah.
an unbiased discussion. That's what the idea is. Understand their perspective, and then put your perspective ahead. And social media kind of has killed that, right? Everybody looks at a post to respond, not to understand. They want to
Right.
respond. This is my point of view, and I want to say it without even understanding the other perspective. That's
Right.
how arguments start. That's how conflicts begin when you don't respect the other person's perspective. I think give them the decency of your ears, right? At least listen to them, introspect, understand, and then respond. But social media kind of, I feel, has killed that. You know,
Yes.
People
Yes.
respond,
Absolutely.
yeah, just for the heck of it, not to have a dialogue. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, so many things there. I agree 100%. One of the taglines that I use when I'm posting about upcoming shows, I'll put the free and open exchange of ideas and of opinions in the belief that as citizens of the world, you have the right to hear and to be heard. And I think, that's super important. And the other thing is like people responding on social media, you don't have to respond to every last thing you see. Like people,
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like sometimes just let it go, shake your head and move on to, the crossword puzzle.
Right, just block the guy. If you don't like the content, just block the guy. You've got so many preferences. I mean, people can complain about Facebook being toxic, Instagram being toxic,
Yeah,
TikTok being toxic. Just block those keywords, block those people. Keep your feed clean with what you want. Spend some time, go to the settings, select the security settings on what you want and what you don't want. And that's how you can keep it clean, but
yep,
you've got to live with it. Just like from physical phones, we moved to mobile phones, and then from mobile
yeah,
phones, we moved to smartphones. It's technology. You've got to
yeah,
evolve with it. You've got to learn. Same with AI, right? People are scared of AI. I said, learn about AI if you don't want to be scared of it. Just don't be
yeah.
scared. Yeah.
Yeah, people are always scared of new things. You know what I mean? New technology. I was a librarian when the web really hit in the late '90s, and so many librarians are like, "We're going to lose our jobs. We're going to lose our jobs. They don't need us anymore." And I used to get that from the general public. Well, what's going on with libraries now that there's the web? Are libraries really needed? And of course there was an answer for that. And of course libraries is still here, and librarians is still here.
I mean, it's the whole ambience, going to the library, picking up the book,
Yes,
sitting there silently and reading it. It's the whole ambience of the library. It's the smell, it's the feel of the physical book, which you can never take away. It's been
yes,
20 years or maybe 25 years since ebook came, and we've had
yes.
this fear that the books are going to be obsolete, the physical books, right? Surely the popularity of ebooks increased, the popularity of audiobooks increased. But hey, people still buy physical books. People would still go to a library and borrow a book. People would still go to the bookstore and buy the book. So don't be scared of technology. I mean, learn about it and evolve with it. That's what I say.
Use it to your advantage. I use on
Put
my
it to your
show.
advantage.
AI. The AI creates the shorts and the reels, and I
Yeah.
get like having an assistant. I just press a button. It figures out the ones that are going to be the best hits. If I publish it, I look at them and pick the ones I like best, and then just send them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like use it as an assistant, so it works very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Assisted AI versus generative AI, we'll talk about that. And I have a very important question. How has
Sure.
AI sort of impacted journalism?
Well, for me, as far as the actual, writing of the words, it hasn't really affected, my style too much. I use Grammarly, which uses AI, before I send it off to the editor. And I don't, just like we were speaking about editors changing your words, Grammarly would like to change your words based on its AI, feedback, and I don't allow that to happen. For one, just like we said before, it's my name on it. But also, I feel like if everybody just says yes to what Grammarly wants, we're going to have everybody's going to have a very similar writing style because you know what I mean? And Grammarly is going to correct what the AI and Grammarly thinks is right. And then everybody's tone is going to be the same. And we kind of lose that creativity based on who you like to read because of their style. So I won't agree to those changes. But Grammarly, as far as the AI finding things that Microsoft Word doesn't, as far as actual misspells and that sort of thing. The grammar part of it is great. The actual when it says
Exactly.
improve your wording, I'm like, no, I use those words for a reason, so they're staying. So it's only impacted in the sense of doing an edit before I send it off for proper punctuation and things of that matter.
Right.
As far as Grammarly goes, as far as research goes for an article, I'm sure people have noticed this, but just as a to underscore it, AI in Google is often wrong, and
Yeah.
you need to scroll down that page and look at more than one source. I mean, corroborate's always been around. It's not a new thing because of AI, but relying on AI for something other than the calories in a food be about as much. And even then, I probably don't check it.
Exactly. I mean,
But
do refer to secondary research, which is already available online, but also
yeah,
do some primary research as well. Do your own research, corroborate
yeah,
the facts, check
absolutely.
the fact. Is this matching, or do you go when you look at an article and you say, this doesn't seem right. I need to do my own research. So you've got to
Exactly.
take that call. And something funny about Grammarly, now that we were talking, is when you reject a suggestion in Grammarly, it wants to know the reason. Tell me the reason. I want to learn. I want to
Yeah, you're
evolve.
right.
And that's
Yeah.
the funny thing.
Yeah.
Every time Grammarly does that, I'm picturing an editor sitting in front of me who's begging me, tell me why aren't you accepting my changes? And I find it really hilarious. So,
That is good. I
yeah, I
like it.
mean, technology is there, and I think journalism, like any other field, is also evolving and changing because of
Yeah.
AI and social
Oh, yeah.
media, of course.
Yeah.
But it's you who's in control. That's the bottom line, correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yep.
You as a creator, you have to control.
Never lose your own personal creativity. Never hand that over to AI. And I think there's a place for AI. In general, like if you're in a gallery, an art gallery, as long as it's marked AI and you think it's beautiful and you want to see it, I mean, have at it. But if you just want to see human paintings, there's the next gallery should be, say non-AI. This was done by Jasveer, and then you
Hmm.
go in there and you see your paintings. You know what I mean? So like whatever floats your boat's fine, but
Exactly.
as long as it's marked, like it's all good by me as long as it's marked. And even an AI article, if there's, I am 99.9% sure I get an update about news in Daytona um, from a source that is using AI to summarize the articles.
Right.
Um, because sometimes my articles are in there and the summary isn't exactly what I wrote. So
Right.
yeah, so you can kind of tell that way too when you're reading something from AI, which again I don't really care as long as it's marked that way. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, yeah,
Somebody reviewed my book, and the name of the character was not even there in the book. I asked him honestly, did you use AI to review the book? And he said yes. I said, at least
yeah,
read the damn book, get the names of the characters correct, because it doesn't make sense if you're reviewing, if you're giving me a really five-star review, but the review is not about the book, it's about something else, then it doesn't make sense. What am I going to do with the review? So here's the bottom line. I think what Chuck Charles over here means, use AI, but then don't lose your brain. Use your brain as well.
yes, absolutely. I noticed that my battery's low. I thought I was plugged in. Sorry, I don't want to lose us. Sorry.
No problem.
What's plugged in? It's looking good now. Let's see. Yeah, it's plugged in now. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about it. The listeners and the viewers are enjoying the music that I raised, so they're
Okay.
going to enjoy that in the background.
I'm back.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. Keep the decisions with yourself. You've got to pick a line. Do I want this change or do I not want this change? As a creator, as an author, as a painter, you've got to decide, do you want AI to keep this change? Do you want your editor to make this change or not? You are the creator, remember, you're the voice, you're the soul. So decide on that.
Absolutely.
Fantastic conversation, Charles.
Yeah, I love it.
Tell us what's coming up next on the opinion guy so that we can keep a track of that.
Yeah, sure. So, as I said, like every Monday night is a news night, and we cover a lot of we cover everything. We cover a lot of Florida and New York news, which hits about 45 million people. Between the two states, is about 45 million people. So you're getting a large group of people cohort there. And we also do national news and international. If there was an election, there's recently an election in Japan, and we're going to talk about that and the impacts there. So there's a lot of geopolitical conversation on that show. My Tuesday night show is a baseball show, and as folks are aware, if you're into sports, spring training is starting, so there's a lot going on there for baseball. And I hope to have a weekly guest on from a minor league team as well. And then the rest of the week, it could be a musician, it could be an author. For this, like for instance, I will shortly have on the lead guitar player from the Verve Pipe, a rock band from the '90s that's still killing it, and writers all the time coming on, politicians all the time coming on as well. And it runs. There's been a little change in deadlines for a newspaper I work for, but basically the show is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Saturdays could be matinees, Sundays could be matinees, but I post a lot. So just follow, you can Google the opinion guy or just follow me at Chuck Long Island and all my social media comes up. And every day I'm posting about what either happened the day before or what's coming up.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll be certainly looking forward to the episode. You have interesting conversations, man. I love that. And to my viewers and listeners, let me know who you want me to bring on the show next time. Let me know in the comments, and I'm going to do that. So, thank you so much for listening and seeing me and Chuck talk about journalism, writing, and AI. Chuck, I want to have a specific episode with you just about journalism. I want to talk more about journalism. You've got
Okay,
me curious, and I'm sure the listeners and the viewers also want to know more about it.
great.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'd love to be back. Yeah.
Till next time, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in into Abracadabra. This was Author to Author, me and Charles, Chuck Guarria from Florida. And I am in Toronto, where it's minus 30 right now. So, wherever you are, take care, stay safe, and enjoy. I'll see you the next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.